All right, for this segment, we're going to talk about your falling and your rolling. You'll notice that I am doing this on concrete. Senior folks, this is not a bad idea to start learning how to do your falls on hard surfaces. People who are just getting started, please do not do this. At least not all of the things that I'm going to be doing today. My preference is that if you can start training your falls on mats, that's great. A cheapo gymnastics mat from Amazon is like $80 for 4x8, which is enough for you to get used to your falls and have some pattern. If you can't do that, my personal experience is that grass is actually the next softest. Particularly not in the summer months when it's all dried out from not having been rained on, but especially in the spring, grass and the ground in general is pretty spongy, so you don't feel it very much. If you can't do that, super deep carpet works. If you don't have any of these, then start very low. If you are in an apartment complex, please do not go thumping around on the floor and annoy your downstairs neighbors. Starting off, keeping all of your practice super low, which is something we're going to start this video with, is great. If over time you can lift your height but still keep your falls quiet, better. These should not be high impact anyway. Your body doesn't really do very well with that, and as we start adding height into the falls, not going to work out so great. This is probably the martial arts skill that you are most likely to use in Rio, and it is the most important for you to have. Really need to know how to fall, and it's really important for you to be able to show your friends and family how to fall. We are in Wisconsin. I hear that there is this thing called ice that happens sometimes. Ice gets slippery and ice makes people fall. So really good skill to make sure that you have in your toolbox. When we start these off, my personal preference is that you guys start from a super deep squat where you're basically sitting on your heels. I'm going to go just a little bit and turn. So when you're doing this, what I need to have you do is really work on curling your tailbone underneath your butt. Most people's big mistake is they keep their back square through these. They might roll the shoulders and tuck the chin, but their back is still flat. So when they go back, it tends to be pretty solid impact to the floor. There you go. And you start hearing that little pop sound on the back. I really want you to think tucking your tailbone under and towards your nose. A lot of times, the more traditional instructors will tell you to think round thoughts when you're doing your falls. And to be perfectly honest, that is probably the most helpful advice that I can give you. It is not the most specific, but everything has to be round. Everything. So when I'm rolling, I'm really trying to tuck everything in. I'm bringing my chin to my collarbone, rolling my shoulders forward, and pulling my tailbone underneath my hips, or underneath my rib cage as much as I can. I'm trying to round my back. I'm trying to turn myself into a ball. That way I don't so much hit as roll. So first exercise, we're going to start from the squatting position. We're going to tuck our chin. We're going to curl everything that we can. And we're just going to hold on to the knees and roll back. And if you keep your back nice and round, then as your hips go up, you let them drop and you use them as a counterweight to pull yourself back up onto your feet. So you just go back and forth. And back. And I can go back and forth like that for a while. As you get comfortable with this, we're going to talk about slapping out. So when you slap out, I want you to slap pretty close to your hips. It's gonna be about 2 hand widths away from the side of your hips. And you're going to pop your hands back on your center line and put one foot in the middle. We've talked about how this lets you prevent people from jumping out. You still have your hands in play where you can grab and manipulate mass around. And it plays into that ground fighting drill that we shot you guys videos of, right? Where I can turn and turn and turn all the way around, right? So this is going to be our position to live in for a while. I've also seen it done where the hands both plant, both of the feet are out, and we can use the hands to turn us around. I have come to love this position more than this position because of how it turns my shoulder and it puts my elbow past my middle line to do this push-pull. If somebody can get a hold of this top foot and push, it's harder for me to uncork my shoulders and get back to middle. So I personally prefer keeping everything in tight, just like I'm coming up for a punch or a kick or kicks, and I keep my fighting system consistent, whether I'm fighting from the ground or I'm fighting standing, right? And that's the other thing. We do not do scissor get-ups in here. I do not like that kind of standing. It puts a lot of pressure across on your ankles. Really not great. So when we do our falls, we start super low, we curl, roll back, slap, pretty close to your hips, fingers open. I'm trying to increase surface area to dissipate the force as much as I can. Hands come back up to the middle, I have my kick foot. From here, whichever foot is down, stays down. When I sit up, I push that block and I plant the opposite hand. Block goes right over the planted foot, other hand plants. I can still kick a little bit with this foot. It's good for keeping that distance. And then I'm going to pull this foot underneath, right? I lift, I have a little swing, and then I drag it under to get my stand up. Now that we've got the back falls down, we're going to talk about side falls, front falls, and the rolls. So for side falls, the biggest concern that I have is that you can, I need to fall that way, turn, and back fall, and that happens. A lot of times when we slip, let's say I'm walking along, la-di-da, this foot goes. I don't have a lot of time to try to turn my hips because I'm already falling that direction, right? So walking this out, blah, 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 and I just go. That foot goes underneath me for whatever reason. Maybe somebody kicked it out from underneath me. Maybe it slipped on ice. Don't know. You'll notice that I tend to end up going along the side of this leg and onto the side of my rib cage. That's just where I fall. So when we're learning side falls, they are distinct from our back falls in that they don't go straight up and down the back, they go along the side. I only have one arm to slap with. The other arm's going to be too far away. It's no big deal. And I'm getting to take a little bit more along the side of the leg than I am directly to the back of both hips. When we're teaching this, my biggest concern is that if we're going to learn falling along the side of the body, that people leave this elbow in the way. So they go to fall, and they start to shove this elbow back underneath them. Elbow point usually ends up right underneath the rib cage, but the shoulder points out, which takes the pressure in the ball socket right away from the center of mass. It's a really great way to dislocate your shoulder, pop your rotator cuff out of position. I'm not even comfortable doing it knowing what's happening, right? So I really want to keep this structure from happening because it does really, really bad things to your rotator cuff. So for the lower belts, when we do these falls, I tend to have them take the leg across reach the arm across and then fall to their side. They can pistol squat on this leg, and that's cool to take some of the impact out, but we're still going along the side of the body, right? And then when I come up, I have that nice wide technical stand up, getting away, hopefully, from whatever made me fall. For the upper belts, I still do this. I just tend to do it in a little bit more of a dynamic fashion. I slap the leg. It's not technically necessary because you can side fall and just keep that structure so that everything goes away from the direction you're falling. But it's a good way to train your brain that once you start to go, the small breakable bits get thrown the other way, right? I want the largest meat shields that I can to be in the way of my body hitting the ground. I don't want fingers or wrists or elbows or shoulders to be what takes that impact. I want the whole force of my lats, this big old meaty cushion back here. I want my glutes. I want the sides of my legs all the way down the side of the leg to be what takes that impact. So we're really going to reach that across. Doesn't matter which way I go. Operation is the same. Kick it across and go. For your front falls, you're going to make triangle from fingers to thumbs, fingers to the elbows, and fingers to the feet. My short front fall is here. I make this circle, elbows go ahead of my shoulders, and I slap. That's cool. I can come up a bit, my long front fall, make that same structure, and I slap. For those, it's not really a whole lot of force. As we start getting closer towards standing, the neck position really matters. I've seen people teach where your front falls, turn the head so your face isn't going towards the floor, and at worst, it's the side of the head that hits. It's the crown, the bone crown that hits. I'm not a huge fan of that because I don't feel like my neck muscles are that strong. Turning it means I don't hit my face, but I will hit my head, and I don't like that concussion risk. So for me, I like getting the muscles in line, looking up, creating that structure, and then when I fall, I maintain my chin up and these muscles nice and tight on the side of my neck. I also want my elbows ahead of my shoulders, right? Square is not enough. This still collapses because I still have forward momentum. I need this ahead, my elbows ahead of my shoulders, right? Super important. So I'm going to do this once for you guys from standing. Other thing that people run into is they tend to not take their feet out of the way. So they go to fall. Well, that didn't work. And the brain just wants to catch you, so the brain just stuffs the foot in the way, which is fine. As we're learning to front fall though, I gotta kick those feet back. I gotta reach my hands up and I gotta look. So doing this a lot from the short and long positions is great. Builds that muscle. And then you can start working this from where you're super short, any front fall, where you start adding height. Now I'm just gonna do this once because too much of this on concrete is not great for my bony little elbows. Makes them super sore. So I'm gonna reach, look, and hit. And I'm really trying to keep my elbows ahead of my shoulders, and I make this nice frame structure. From here, I'm gonna pick one hand up and feed it underneath. And turn. Get my elbow to knee shield position. Hands up, kicks her up, plant it, and drag it through. Right, if I'm getting pushed this direction, I want to move that direction because the source of the push is from the other side. All right, that's enough front falls. Front falls generally suck, and unless someone has a hold of my knees, I'm gonna forward roll instead of front fall, which is the thing we're going to talk about now. For our forward rolls, you can start from a nice kneeling position, And I'm going to point this shoulder and this elbow up so that I can roll over it. Right? Lead hand fingertips point back at the back hip. I'm going to go lead shoulder to rear hip so that I don't go over my spine. I'm not a big fan of somersaults. My back hand is going to try to come as close as it can to the lead. They can be offset, that's okay. Really all I care about is having this wing block kind of position where I'm guarding my head and I'm tucking my chin as I roll through. So that it goes over my delt and not my skull, right? So I'm going to open my hips a little bit so I roll towards the camera. I make my circle and I roll. And I right back up. I'm really trying to curl everything in. I need this back foot to kick into the back of my ankle when I go. That keeps my ankle from slapping out. The judo guys will point the foot out when they roll something like this. That's got, especially on concrete, that's got a lot of risk of slapping that ankle. I already got pretty close to tapping my ankle on the floor that way. So, not my favorite. I really want to tuck that in and I want to roll up across the shoulder. Parkour guys will tend to want to go over the heels the whole way. I don't like the futs that leaves, the instability, and I don't know what kind of surface that I'm going to be rolling on. So I'm going to widen out until I get that first foot planted, and then I'm going to lift and set my second foot into motion, right? Rolling from the other shoulder, same thing. It's tuck and go, and up we get. And you really shouldn't hear a lot of thuds from that ankle on your way through, or your back. Everybody's got a stupid side. My left shoulder is a lot smoother than my right. I'm working on that, but you really want to try to keep this as quiet as possible. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to do one more roll on my bad side, and we're going to see how quiet we can get it. You hear that pop? You really want to curl your back as much as you can. So I'm going to try that one more time. Better. There we go. Right? I don't want to hear a pop sound because that means I had a curve in my lower back. All right. When we talk about 4 rolls with a turn, you roll and turn. And that's all it is. So whenever I get up, my back foot does a little shuffle and I turn. We're going to do this one off my good side. This time again, quiet. I get up and I turn. And that's all I really need to see. Right? We can smooth it out, make it nice and easy, but it's get up and turn. Here we go, smoothing it up. And there it is. Upper belts, as we get you up into the system, start having your dive rolls. I'm going to keep this super low because I'm on concrete with no mats and no pads. But the idea is you're just going to reach your rolls out just a little bit. Just a little reach. Alright. Your back rolls are just your 4 rolls in reverse, where I'm tucking my back foot up and under, and I'm rolling back hip to lead shoulder, putting my lead knee over that shoulder as I go. Right? So I'm going to tuck it and I'm going to roll. And there we go. I tend to keep my feet on the back rolls, especially my front foot, tucked in that push kick position, so that when I roll, I might make a little contact with that front knee, especially if I'm trying to keep my feet in super tight. But then I make contact with the ball of the foot, and I'm lifting by that structure. Tries to keep a little bit off of it, off the toes, and off the arch of your foot so that you can actually get up like you're supposed to. Those are really your falls and rolls. We'll add in falls and rolls from a push here in a little bit, but basically the mechanics are the same. You're just adding a little bit of impetus before you start learning how to take falls from being thrown. So, hope that helps, and catch you guys up soon.